It landed in the world's most forbidding jungle. It came for the thrill of the hunt. Now, it's coming to a different kind of jungle.
You don't know what you're dealing with.
This time, it's open season on all of us. Danny Glover, Gary Busey, Ruben Blades, Maria Conchita Alonso, Bill Paxton. Predator 2. Hunting season opens again this Christmas.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen of the Bro v. Bro Court. We're going to tell you how this is going to go down on this show from here on out. Every week, there will be a film that will be prosecuted by one brother for his sheer hatred of that film. And the defense will be the other brother, turn by turn, to defend the film. Or be won over and change their mind. But at the end of the day, after both cases have been brought, you, the audience, will decide who is the winner. Is the movie trash, or is it redeemed, or is it a mistrial? It is up to you. So, Hector, you're going to be prosecuting this week. What do you have for this court?
Well, I felt like since we talked about it a little bit on the last one, we're going to have to go with Predator 2. Now, this is a movie that you and I have really conflicting views on. Now, I remember it as something that, like, I didn't even watch. Like, you know, I had a big love for the original Predator movie, and when you were watching it, you were pushing this movie on me, like, oh, you gotta see this, man. You gotta see it.
Of that I am guilty. Yes, I am. I loved this movie growing up. I also love Predator. I remember the first time I saw it, Mom was taking you somewhere, and it was me and Dad at the house, and like Predator had just come on, and Mom was like, "Don't let Carlos watch this."
I should point out to the audience, you are about 6 years younger than me.
So I was way behind.
Yeah.
I was much younger. Hector was alright to watch it, but I could not. Dad just says, "Oh yeah, sure, honey." Door closes, car goes, "Alright, son, we're watching Predator." Arnold Schwarzenegger, then Predator, was thrust upon me, and I loved that movie ever since. And eventually I got older and realized, oh, there's a sequel, Predator 2. Checked it out. Oh my god, it's got Danny Glover from Lethal Weapon 2, and he curses like a madman, and the Predator's got all kinds of cool weapons. This movie's awesome. I loved it.
And see, that's where you and I immediately start to differ, because you're like, wow, this movie's got Danny Glover. And I'm like, oh my god, this movie's got Danny Glover?
Danny Glover rules. I love Danny Glover. He can be in anything, even in the original Saw movie. I like the Saw franchise. I did not care much for the first film. I really like him in it.
He was like, I'm getting too old for this Saw.
I'm going geriatric. I can't finish up puzzles anymore.
Is Danny Glover ever like not a disgruntled little cop? Like,
sure, he was in The Cookout.
Wait, what was that? Was that with the one with him and Mel Gibson, and they were running around trying to arrest people?
No, that's Lethal Weapon again.
Okay, so yeah, I'm getting his movies mixed up.
The Cookout was a really, really, really bad movie, kind of like on that Medea level back from like 2003 with Mike Epps.
Oh, wow.
And he played the father or grandfather in it. So yeah, he does different things.
Okay, yeah, sometimes, you know.
I'm pretty sure he's on Soul Plane as well.
Okay, you just sold me on that.
So Danny Glover. So that's where you're starting off with your prosecution. And now, wait a minute. We need to look back. We need to look back at the time, because we've gone through how the films, like, we liked them when we were younger. You liked the first?
Oh, yeah.
I love both. Not equally. The first is still the best. I think this is a fine sequel.
Well, let's start with the directors. The first one was directed by John McTiernan, who also directed Die Hard, if I remember correctly.
And Die Hard 3.
And Die Hard 3.
And Rollerball.
I wasn't a big fan of Die Hard 3, but the first Die Hard was ridiculous. The first Predator was amazing.
Mm-hmm.
And, like, in all honesty, it was a game changer, you know what I mean? I had seen a couple of Schwarzenegger movies before that, like, you know, obviously Terminator, and, you know, Terminator was great, but I feel like Predator was kind of like that one movie where, like, and I'm talking about Schwarzenegger's, like, character really, like, kind of, like, reached out to me a little bit, you know what I mean? I felt for him, man.
Towards the end of it, he does seem more vulnerable, especially, even though he gets hit by the same laser weapon that tore apart Jesse Ventura, unless it was like some kind of stunner, but what sense does that make in the movie? He's the only survivor who gets hit with that, and he's running away, and he actually seems hurt. Not very often did you see Van Damme. Why was I going to say that?
You got Van Damme.
Well, Van Damme has a connection. Now that I am talking about Van Damme, he was originally the Predator in this film. I'm not kidding you. I'm not coming up with that on the fly. That is a genuine thing in the original Predator.
Do you know why he said no to that role? Because I'm going to take a guess, and it had to do with the fact that he would have had to wear a mask.
That was part of it, but also that he got a job at Canon Films and wanted to do Bloodsport. But because he was doing Predator, they said that they would have to wait. But they said, no, we're not going to wait because we have to get this movie done. We're Canon Films. We don't wait for anybody.
Oh, I love Canon Films.
Canon Films, just the best. Trash coming to your cinemas. I miss them. Anyway, Van Damme pretends to get sick. Well, there's multiple stories of it, but from what I heard originally, he was pretending to get sick inside the original Predator suit, and he would fall over, and they're saying, oh, he's overheating. And they eventually fired him because they found him unreliable. And then, wink, wink, he becomes the Bloodsport star that we all know and love now.
Well, let's be honest. I mean, that suit is probably made out of rubber. He's in the jungle and probably on a lot of cocaine. So I would probably be sweating in that thing too, bro.
That wasn't even the original suit either. Originally, it looked like a weird bug of some kind. It was a strange thing.
Oh, God.
The scorpion face, the classic Predator look that we see now, that came later. So it's very surprising.
Yeah, you know, I mean, so, you know, from the get-go, you know, you got a movie that's very intriguing. You know, the first one deals with, you know, these commando team that goes into the jungle. By the way, I should probably
if you haven't seen Predator,
for God's sake, spoiler alert. You know, I shouldn't even have to say that on like a 30-year-old movie, but spoiler alerts.
In my opinion, Predator, like the Terminator or the Lethal Weapon series, like that is a rite of passage for all men. Like, you have to see that movie. Die Hard as well.
I do feel
that
way. There's a couple movies that I feel like, you know, you mentioned, and like, for instance, Goodfellas. Like, I'll be like,
yes,
Goodfellas. And if a dude's like, I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, you gotta check
I'm just like, and even more than that, it's like, I don't even want to listen to your opinion, like, on movies. If you don't even know Goodfellas or you know, Godfather, come on, bro.
Anybody that hasn't seen Godfather, that just makes me sad. I don't like the idea of a world where someone hasn't seen Godfather.
Right.
Except for part 3, you can skip that one.
But look, that's my point with Predator. It's like, it's such a good movie. Like, it was always playing on cable, both the edited version and unedited version. You know, and the first one, like I said, it's a team of commandos. Just to give you a quick synopsis, a team of commandos goes into some I don't even remember some undescript country, and they're trying to take out some guerrillas, basically, that are fighting against the government or something.
Well, they're lied to by Carl Weathers.
But they're there's this whole thing. But the basic story is they're sent in, they're lied to by the people who send them in. But nobody knows, if I remember correctly, nobody knows for a fact that there's a predator there. Like, this is something that they just experienced.
Yes, Schwarzenegger and his crew just annihilate the guerrillas very easily.
Yeah, this is in the first 5 minutes.
And they're trying to make their way out, and the predator sees the damage that they cause in the jungle. He's like, hey, there's some new prey. And he starts killing them all one by one until, of course, Schwarzenegger is the only one left.
Now, that's the cool thing about this is where I want to start making stark contrast between this Predator and Predator 2. Is like, it starts off with a lot of really likable characters. You already kind of like Schwarzenegger, because Schwarzenegger's a very charismatic person. You got Carl Weathers, you know. And again, this is where I'm going to say that someone like Danny Glover doesn't have a lot of acting range, you know, because you got even a guy like Carl Weathers comes in. Carl Weathers just had played Apollo Creed. You know, so he's going from playing like a boxer to like a military guy, and does it well. Like, I don't see Apollo Creed in his role. You know what I mean?
I would agree with that. Whenever I watch that film, I never do think of him.
You have to argue that he has some acting range, even though he's not known as like one of these like top end actors.
And you don't think of that role as a very heavy role for someone to play.
But right away they established that the Schwarzenegger and
Carl
Weathers has a connection here. You like the fact that basically you're invested in the story right away. All the characters, and isn't John McTiernan actually in this? Was he in the movie? Did he do?
No, Shane Black.
That's who it is. Shane Black.
He helped with the script. I can't. It was written by Jim and John Thomas, but he helped with the script uncredited.
Yeah, he plays the. Geez, you got a big pussy. Geez, you got a big pussy. Yeah, he tells his joke. It's the whole thing. But there's that guy.
He's the nerdy guy. Yeah.
There's a Native American guy. There's
Jesse Ventura.
Yeah, Jesse Ventura. Yapik Kodo, if I remember correctly, was in this.
No.
Am I racist?
No, dude, that is Bill Duke.
No, you're right. Bill Duke. God.
The director of Deep Cover.
Not trying to be racist, but they're blacker than the both of them. Look, point being is that you immediately attach yourself to all these characters. They're all memorable, and when they die in like really kind of unique ways, and you feel it every time that one of these characters it's a 10 Little Indian story. You know what I mean? And each one of them dropping means something here.
Yeah, all the characters very much. You get close to every one of them, even if you didn't get much dialogue with them. It's very strange how a movie about shirtless manly men in the jungle fighting a monster would actually be so sentimental, especially to me as a kid, because I rewatched it over and over and over, which brought me to Predator 2.
Wait,
I wanted to see where else it would go.
But before we talk about Predator 2, I just want to point out another thing about the movie called Predator, right? The Predator in this movie is very much has like a character. You know what I mean?
In Predator 1 or Predator 2?
In Predator 1. Predator 1, I feel like that... You're like, what the hell? Because when you finally get the big reveal, you definitely feel like you did not really, even though the guy's on the cover, like you're not really understanding like what's going on, and the whole reveal to the end when the Predator dies.
Oh, the suspense of what he looks like. The suspense
of what he looks like, everything. He doesn't say anything, but you feel them almost like Jason.
Actually, I was going to say Michael Myers, but
okay, yeah, we could go with Michael Myers. I feel that.
If you hadn't seen the film before, like waiting to see what he looks like, the suspense is unnerving, and he's bigger than Schwarzenegger. When you see that scene, he takes off the mask, and Arnold says, "You were one ugly mother bleeper." It's freaky. Like as a kid, it terrified me. I was like, "Oh my god, Schwarzenegger, what are you gonna do? This thing is gigantic. It looks like it's gonna eat you."
Yeah, remember he had basically killed everybody in his group, and he jumps off like a log, and like the Predator's after him in the water, and he figures out that he can put mud on himself because he figures out basically that the Predator's got infrared vision, and so and it's this whole tense scene where the Predator very much kind of like that Jurassic Park scene where they're like trying to stand still.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And then the rest of the movie basically takes us through like Schwarzenegger just being like, I don't really have a lot of weapons. I am stuck in the middle of nowhere. I don't have food. I don't have water. I just have a certain set of skills that can help me out here. He's been taken.
Well, that actually is kind of what brings me back towards Predator 2 is like a lot of things that you just pointed out. The heat vision and how he sees, they actually build upon that in Predator 2. That goes into my defense.
Okay. Lay it on me then.
Well, Predator 2, where to start with this? Came out in 1990, directed by Stephen Hopkins. Once again written by Jim and John Thomas. Schwarzenegger did not return for this. Instead, we have Danny Glover, Ruben Blades, Gary Busey, and Maria Conchita Alonso. Made about $57 million, 60 plus rentals and whatnot on a $30 million budget. Once again, released in 1990. Opens up with Danny Glover as a police officer in Los Angeles in 1997, the future. There is a gigantic gang war going on, and the Predator has been attracted to the city of Los Angeles due to all the conflict. which is later explained by Gary Busey, who was a government head honcho trying to capture one of the predators for the technology. He tells Danny Glover that the predator has come to town because the creatures are attracted to the violence in any different part of the world, which is why they ran into Schwarzenegger, because there was a lot of conflict going on in that part. Long story short, Danny Glover is he's being targeted now by the predator after displaying some major machismo in the beginning, saving police officers that were in the middle of this gang war. I don't know where to start off with this film.
You know what?
Bring it on. Bring on the prosecution.
Look, man, because this movie's such a mess, this is a good place to start. Because as soon as I started watching this thing unfold in front of me, and again, I haven't seen this thing complete. Like, that's another point I want to point out. I think I've watched this movie like in pieces, like over time. But this is probably the first time I've sat down and watched this movie all the way through. And the first thing that struck me was, this is kind of racist. Like, right off the bat, you just got like these Jamaicans and the police and
not just Jamaicans, voodoo Jamaicans,
right?
Yeah.
Oh man, and the accents, bro. Like the outfits and the accents of these Chicanos, man. They fighting for their barrio, man. You know, and I'm like, wow, dude. Like,
it's supposed to be the future, though.
Yeah, he's the future, man. And like, everyone's like they're fighting with the police, and at the same time like shoving cocaine in their faces and like
on bullet wounds.
Oh yeah, man. You know, and I'm like, this is a little bit of like a caricature of like a South Central LA, you know, Chicano, and it's not, and I kind of blame Mel Blanc a little bit for this, for making that kind of like Speedy Gonzalez like accent, like popular in Hollywood, and everybody talking like these. You know, I was like, that's a little racist, bro. Like it just made it seem like every Latino living in Chicago was in a gang and high on cocaine.
Except for Conchita Alonso.
No, that's
and
true.
Ruben Blades.
They're
both Hispanic.
Yeah, but I feel like that was also like a caricature in and of itself of like these hard, you know, barrio detectives, man. You know, like.
Well, Bill Paxton was really irritating her. Those stories are goofy.
Let's be
He was
honest.
trying too hard to hit on her.
Sure, but Bill Paxton has made a career out of being annoying. a lovable version of annoying. Let's be honest. Like, he's lovable, but he's annoying.
Okay, in my defense of that, yes, it is goofy. It is over the top. But I'm okay with that because it didn't have to be the same thing as the original. 2, I really like Stephen Hopkins' style. Apparently, he's a really big comic book guy. He does fantastic storyboards, and he's always able to bring a lot more out of his characters in a lot of his films. So for me, it didn't feel that unusual. On top of that, it's supposed to be the future, 7 years from 1990, where music and culture and everything in Los Angeles, having all the riots and whatnot, it wasn't that hard to believe that it was possible it could go in that direction. Maybe not in that literal direction with these voodoo Jamaican guys. Maybe not like that, but something very over the top. Like, for instance, the music that you hear when Danny Glover and his partners come back to the police station after the battle at the beginning. That music is like that rico, suave kind of like music that was happening around then. Maybe they thought that was going to stick around up until 97.
Well, to go back to the whole talk about production, did you know that they were originally going to try to film this in New York?
That's so expensive.
That's exactly why they went to Los Angeles. And then they crafted the whole, like, basically redid the whole script. There was apparently, like, a different script. And then they took it to Los Angeles, and it became this whole, like, voodoo priest thing, and it's just weird.
Well, I've heard various reports. One was supposed to be Schwarzenegger was supposed to come back as the hero, but somehow the Predators just tracked him down.
Oh, get this. Schwarzenegger said, yo, I'm filming Dutch right now. It's a little bit more important than Predator 2. Like, he took a look at the script and said, I'd rather film Dutch.
Just Dutch.
Yeah, I mean,
Predator needed.
No,
he did not like the script.
I'm working on
that,
T2.
and they didn't want to pay him.
Well, yeah, that too, and they didn't want to pay John McTiernan, who had just come off of Die Hard, and he was asking for, I think, like $20 million. So they were like not trying to pay him out, that kind of money. They had a bad script. They didn't want to pay for the actors, surprising.
I have to disagree with Schwarzenegger. I'm still okay with this script. I like this movie. I told you, I like this movie. I quote it all the time. There's so many lines in it that I love.
You would have to build like a backstory as to like how he comes back and like, you know, I don't know, it just doesn't make any sense.
Well, the one that, okay, fair enough. Like what you just said, the script obviously that was made was different than what I've seen. So I haven't actually read the Schwarzenegger script. Maybe that script was really bad, and what they came up with here was better. And I can read your mind right now. Saying that's what was better. Good Lord.
Look. All I'm trying to say is that this movie's got a lot of problems. You know, starting from the beginning scene. There were some good things about that scene. The action is amazing. The action in it was good. I will give you that. You know, but I mean, right off the bat, you're watching this movie, and it is a stark difference from Predator. You know, Predator starts off like, again, you're introduced to the characters, you like the characters right away. A couple little things start happening. It's all very subtle, and it leads to like a mid-movie reveal of who the bad guy is.
But
and Little Indian Story.
Done that.
Yes, but that's what I'm saying. This movie is such a stark. All of a sudden, you start off with this big, I'm going to kill everybody, Holmes, like, you know, action sequence, and while it's good, you don't care. You know, that's the difference between this movie and that movie. The other movie takes time to build to some of those scenes where you care about what's going on with the action. The action can't just happen. Otherwise, we would just watch like random action scenes with no, you know, background. But when you want to care about the characters, that's the writers.
I completely disagree, because by throwing them into the situation right away, you see the heroism of Danny Glover. You see that he's able to save these cops that are just being all shot up, and they can't get anybody there to save them. Remember come and get it, Scorpio's red. That guy, like, he shoves all the cocaine in his nose. He blows up that car, and the cops go flying. Everybody's injured. They can't get anything going. Danny Glover goes in, and I see him like, man, this dude is the man.
You know how much I would have loved to just see a movie about that guy, the Latino. Oh yeah, man!
It's called Machete.
Yeah. Fair enough. Like, since you okay, let's talk about Danny Glover a little bit.
I love him in this movie.
This movie felt like Danny Glover versus Predator, or Lethal Predator 5. You know,
what's wrong with that?
Everything.
Why?
Because it was like they literally were like, here was the studio execs like, yeah, man. So he's definitely doing a great job on Lethal Weapon. I'm just saying, dude, I got a great idea. Lethal Weapon, Predator. This could happen. This could seriously happen. You got any more? All right, let's call my guy. That's exactly how that went down. It was just a coke green, bro.
No. Way too many funny moments, especially when he's being chewed out by his boss, Robert Davi, and he gets distracted for a moment, and the chief is walking away, and Glover says, "Where are you going?" And to which Robert Davi replies, "You're off this case. Now go back to your cage." And Danny Glover starts running right at him, and Ruben Blades comes up from behind and goes, "No, don't look at the bus."
Okay,
I love those scenes.
Let's talk about that. The guy who plays the top cop was this the guy? He was also in Lethal Weapon, wasn't he?
No, actually, you're thinking of he was the bad guy in License to Kill, Robert Davi. He's also in Maniac Cop 2 and 3.
Yeah, but it has that feel. It's like, damn it, Riggs, you blew everything up. The hostage almost died. But you get the job done.
But in this case, he is Riggs.
Look, but that's what I'm saying. This movie just feels like they were like, we can't get Schwarzenegger. Let's just shill out the money for Danny Glover, have him do his Danny Glover act.
Danny Glover wasn't cheap. It was cheaper than Schwarzenegger, for sure, but still not cheap.
But that's what I'm saying. This movie basically just feels like they were just taking elements of Lethal Weapon and trying to, and that's the problem. It's like a buddy cop movie with no buddy.
Ruben Blades.
No, Ruben Blades. First of all, Ruben Blades dies like in the first like 20 minutes.
Yeah, but I like him.
Yeah, but he died. And okay, let's talk about not just Ruben Blades, but the kills in this movie.
I like the kills.
The kills were terrible.
That scene at the subway was so epic.
Are you kidding me?
No. When he's taking them all out in the meat factory. Really dig that. Action scenes in the beginning, of course. That's right on the list there as well.
All those scenes feel like they're strung together.
Big Willie going up against the Predator. I love that part.
Okay, let's talk about Big Willie a little
It was like a Wild Wild West moment. Not Wild Wild West, the movie, but like Wild West, like a Western. Like, it felt like that.
This was also part of like my problem with like the whole Jamaican thing. As a big fan growing up of like dance hall, reggae music, like I've more or less kind of gotten to hear the Jamaican accent, and it's one of my pet peeves about Hollywood. Hollywood loves to throw in a Barbados accent. And the Barbados accent, man, it's all singy-songy, and it don't really sound like that, you know?
Near the beach,
yeah, they sound like like Thurgood, like Samson Simpson, I'm from Jamaica.
Where are you from?
That's what. And at first, I'm watching this movie, and I'm like, King Willie just sounds like that. Run from right near the beach. But then I found out that Calvin Johnson, the actor, was actually born and raised in Nassau, Bahamas. But that's where that accent comes from.
But Bahamas, not Jamaica.
No, but that's what I'm saying. It's like, so at first I was like, and what really made me think that he wasn't really from, the Caribbean, was that he had a mop on his head, bro. Calvin Johnson does not have dreads. Like, if you look up pictures of him, he's got a shaved head. He literally looks like Don Cheadle in a fucking mop.
Okay, I'm not gonna fight against that. But in the defense of the film, I will say it may not be completely racist. It could be, but also the working visas for actors from certain areas, maybe it was more expensive to get guys from Jamaica, so they got guys from the Bahamas. Kind of like you want Mexicans, but instead you get Puerto Ricans. Maybe that's what happened.
Well,
for what it was as close as they could get.
It was just like terrible, because it's like I can imagine this guy, and I read up a little bit about him. He's actually like a pretty well-known, like in his country, like actor. They've actually, when he died, they set up a foundation in his name so that actors from the Caribbean.
Did the Predator ever return his head?
Unfortunately not. They had to.
That was great.
No, and then look, we're gonna talk about that. Like, he's like the Predator basically, after he gives like Danny Glover like a little bit of info, Predator
Dreadmine.
Yeah, the Predator comes out and he's like, "Come get some," and then literally like they keep his head in the frame, and it's just like the Predator. You don't even see the Predator cut his head off. It's the most boring, like...
Oh, I love the cutaway!
No, it was terrible! Oh my...
Oh,
the cutaway was
cutaway.
Like, we don't have enough money to do this. I don't know what they were thinking with that scene. It was terrible.
With all the special effects that they put into that, I highly doubt they didn't have the money for it. That was a choice. If you look at that from a comic book point of view, that looks like something that would jump off the pages of a comic book.
A comic book, not a movie, though. I mean, like...
Well, that's why I like Stephen Hopkins.
Okay.
He is a comic book guy.
Now, this is where the actual, like, story came from. Apparently, what they did was they basically, like, looked at the source material of the comics and the books and the whatever. I actually read a story when I was younger. It was about the City Hunter. And it was basically almost like a retelling of this particular story. I wish I could tell the audience I remember what it was, but I read it when I was, like, 14 years old.
I believe that had something, the storyline, did it involve Dutch's brother in New York?
I don't remember
that is one comic that came out in between the first and second.
This I'm talking about is a specific book. I don't remember all the specifics about the book, but the impressions that it made on me was, number one, it took place in the city. I think it was called Urban Jungle. I'm pretty sure that's what it was called.
Yeah, I've heard about that. Or Concrete Jungle.
Concrete Jungle was a really good book version of like the Predator stuff. And one of the things that I remember about it was it gave you a lot of insight about the Yautja. Half the book was about the human, like
the Yautjas are a tribe, but Predators are different tribes.
Right. So half the book is written from the point of view of the human cop, and the other half is written from the point of view of the hunter.
They thought about doing that with this one.
and that's what I'm saying. It's like I don't know when Concrete Jungle came out, but I feel like that might have been what they were trying to capture. Because I do like the idea of the city hunter and the jungle hunter, but this did not execute it at all.
Well, how do you feel about Gary Busey? Well, you know what?
We can talk about Gary Busey.
Wait on Gary Busey. Actually, first I want to get to Bill Paxton. Another reason that I did this movie. Alien versus Predator. You got an actor from Aliens in a movie with a Predator. I love that. And I actually do like the character, even though he makes some of the worst jokes. I genuinely like him because Bill Paxton makes corny jokes actually sound alright coming out of him.
He's great. I mean, game over, man.
Game over. Wrong movie, man. Wrong movie.
What was that movie was he in that movie where he plays the father of like 2 little kids?
Yes.
And like he's
Frailty.
Frailty. Yo, that's where you really see, dude. Frailty was a massively good movie, and it's so underrated. Like nobody ever. Every time I bring up Frailty, I was like, what the. But that's a movie that people should check out.
Frailty, definitely. We may make a video on that at some point, a little retrospective. Give it a little, give it a boost. You know, try to reach a bigger audience for it. It is a very underrated film. Came out very quickly, $13 million, directed by Bill Paxton. Awesome movie. So back to Predator 2, Bill Paxton. You gotta at least admit, you gotta give that a thumbs up.
All right, you know, that was like the saving grace for me, like of this movie. I was so happy, like that Bill Paxton was kind of his performance in this. I can't really talk too much trash. He comes in, you know, with his Bill Paxton style and just lays it down. You know what I mean? I got nothing bad to say about Bill Paxton, or for that matter, Maria Conchita Alonso, because she's one-dimensional. She's not gonna be anybody else, but you know,
she's tough.
She's tough. She's a tough girl, and for the role of what it was, she played it right.
And especially because she has that Running Man connection. And that's another thing. Yeah. This movie has so many goofy connections. It's kind of like the 6 Degrees of Kevin Bacon.
Yeah, I mean, you know, and that's probably like what little bit of charm this movie has, you know, is that all these the production stories and stuff. Oh, let's talk about, before we talk about Gary Busey, let's talk about one more character here. As I was like looking through the IMDb and reading some of these like bios of some of the characters, there was a name that came up, and it didn't even have a picture of the actor, and it just said Sarge, and the name was Louis Ippolito, and I was like, why?
It can't be the Louis Ippolito.
Well, I was like, who is? I know I've heard this name, Louis Ippolito. Is currently serving multiple life sentences because he was a contract mafia killer.
And he was a police officer.
Yeah.
And he had a partner in on it.
Yeah, Stephen Caracappa.
Yeah, Caracappa.
These
I
guys,
thought it was Carmine, but Caracappa.
Yeah, it was Caracappa. I mean, we're not going to get into the whole thing, but Carlos and I are very big on like mafia lore and history.
Yeah, we read a lot of books, documentaries on it.
I sent you a text that I was like, look who's in this movie. And you were like, oh my God.
I couldn't believe it. I had to look it up. I was like, there's no way it's that guy. Like, how did he get involved in that?
So he, if you want to know a little bit more, because he's been in he's only been in 3 movies, but he played Fat Andy in Goodfellas, which is the introduction scene where he's not the long scene where he's walking in the club with Karen, but the other one where he's like, I hang out with these mobsters, and he's like, there was Pete the Killer.
I took care of that problem for you.
I took care of that thing for you. You know.
I'm gonna get the papers. Get the papers.
Tony 2 times because he says everything twice.
I'm gonna get the papers. Get the papers.
And Fat Andy, the brother of so and so, and all he says, I forget what he says.
How you doing? Kid?
How you doing, kid?
Like that.
It's all he just tips his drink and he goes, how you doing, kid?
And that's his big claim to fame is right there. Well, obviously besides murder,
Predator too.
But as far as entertainment goes. Goodfellas. He's in there for literally 1 second.
Yeah. And just to talk just one more minute about Ippolito, this guy worked with Anthony Gaspipe, who was in I believe the Lucchese family. He had connections to the Gambino family.
Well, actually,
and what ended up happening?
Gaspipe.
No, they didn't kill Gaspipe. They killed they killed Patrick Testa. That was like the big hit. And Patrick Testa was related to Phil Testa.
The Chicken Man.
The Chicken Man who got blown up, I think, in Chicago or something. Bottom line is the Testas.
No, he was Philadelphia.
It was Philly, yeah, Philly. Part of the Philly mob. Look, bottom line is that this guy had killed a lot of people with his partner, Stephen Caracappa. And this idiot wrote a book called Mafia Cop that just literally laid everything out. But like the cops just like picked up a copy and were like, and just
here's all the evidence.
Here's all the evidence. So now, like, Caracappa and Ippolito are serving multiple life sentences. Just a little, like, what the hell?
And the book was such a big seller that they gave him a spot, and there you go. What a strange little piece of trivia there. If you ever have friends that love mafia history, lay down that little bit of trivia for them.
Yeah, you'll be the most popular guy at the party.
Gary Busey. So we move on now.
Oh my God.
This was the first film that he made 2 years after his unfortunate head injury.
And you can tell, yeah, for real.
No, dude, I think he provides a pretty good performance. I think this is definitely before he started giving performances like Gingerbread Man, like horrible B movie trash. I actually think Gary Busey was really good in this. The only thing that, after rewatching it with more critical eyes, I will say that when he's explaining to Danny Glover the situation with the alien, I don't feel like he really has any logical motivation to do that.
No, and that's what
okay, you made it in here. I'm gonna give you all of our nation's secrets on this predator race. Bye bye. I'm gonna go get him now.
Gary Busey is the worst CIA agent I've ever seen in my life. Because the beginning scene, he's like, he's telling him to shut the hell up. You don't
stay out of his way.
Stay out of my way. You're in over your head. And then like 20 minutes later, he's like, okay, you broke in here. Here's all our plans. Why is he telling him all this stuff? Dude?
Now that may be true. I may be damning the film a little bit there, but the way that he delivers it works for me, especially when he tells him that he's on safari. The lions, the tigers, the bears. Oh my! I love that.
Yeah, I mean, he does his Gary Busey thing, for sure. But
who doesn't love that?
That was the other side of it. It's like just like Bill Pullman. I wanted to see more Gary Busey, and you see very little Gary Busey.
But he's got his moments at the end.
Yeah, but I mean,
you think he's down and out, and then he comes back and he saves Danny Glover, and then foolishly says, "Get out of here."
Oh yeah, he comes back with a fire. He comes back with a fire extinguisher, like.
They had all that stuff around him because they said in the plan they put like radiation around so you can actually see him, and he can't use the light reflector. The type of fire retardant thing is supposed to put him down, and when he's shooting it, the eyes of the predator they're going dark, so it is affecting him.
Okay, so that is one thing I will say. Like they came up with it, and it's not even like that good of a.
I thought it was clever.
No, not really, because Schwarzenegger did the same thing in the first one when he covered himself up with mud. It's just that they took it to like a little technological way, but it's the same.
Well, that meant how
they're wearing suits that don't show their thermal image.
Well, yeah. Well, also the room's pretty much full with radiation, which actually is another plot hole right there.
Right.
So what happens at the end of the movie? Because Danny Glover's probably gonna die of a tumor after his experience with the predators, because that room is filled with radiation, so the predator couldn't go back into cloaking form.
Right, and that's my point. Is like this movie's got so many plot holes.
But then again, so does Schwarzenegger. Schwarzenegger should be dead at the end of the original. That was a nuke that the Predator blew up, and he somehow survives that.
Was that an actual nuke? Because I don't know that it was actually said that it was a nuke.
You see it when it's flying over. They're like, what is that? And it's a mushroom cloud. Yeah. Only one thing makes a mushroom cloud.
But as we've learned, and it is kind of believable, if someone's going to survive a nuclear blast, it's going to be Schwarzenegger.
That's because he's filled with so many steroids of protecting him.
Hey, what he's got to do is what he's got to do, okay? Let's not pass judgment on the guy.
Hey, let's not make a thing out of it.
Let's not make a thing out of it over here.
Come on, Lou. Take it easy, Lou. Maybe that's why he didn't join in. Yeah. Schwarzenegger's like, Lou Pileto is in here. I'm not in that movie. I owe the man $20,000.
That could be. That could be. But look, so Gary Busey basically blows up at the end, at this part,
He gets chopped in half in an epically awesome death.
I mean, look, the death was okay. I mean, it wasn't anything on the level of Predator. Predator, you had one person who, was really skinned, but it was like a shock, you know what I mean? In this movie, like, a guy gets cut in half and I don't care. That's my point, is that they don't really build it up. Gary Busey, no.
When the blade is going through, think about the time and how much trouble it took to get that shot done with no CGI. That blade is cutting through all the meat and then eventually gets to Gary Busey and shots of him. You see all the blood come out. When I was a kid, I was like, that is a lot of blood.
Yeah, but look, Gary Busey's death, Bill Pullman's death.
Love Bill Pullman's death.
His boy
goes down like a G.
His boy Danny Arch. Look, half of these kills, including just to talk a little bit about the ending, the one at the end, it's like
Danny Glover versus the Predator.
it's underwhelming. Yeah, the whole thing, it's underwhelming. It's
Well, that
like
brings
one
it-
quick stab, like one quick this or one quick that. You know, it's really not.
It wasn't like quick. They have like a little duel going on. He's got the blade in his hand, and the Predator's
Okay.
got one arm. And he's swinging at him, and he's swatting it away.
Let's talk about the ending a little bit here.
Okay.
Paint a picture for us a little bit of what. At this point, the Predator has killed like all of Danny Glover's people. You know, he's been chasing Danny around. There was a scene where they're up on the rooftops and they crash through. Oh man, this is the greatest part. So they crash. They do that classic scene where they crash through some old lady's window, and then chase each other down the apartment, and they get to what?
Well, I'm not gonna lie. That what he's bringing up is kind of difficult to defend. All I can say is suspension of disbelief is a wonderful thing, and saying that as a wrestling fan, that's all I got. That's all I got. Yeah, the Predator and Danny Glover have the fight. Predator loses an arm. They fall through the apartment, and the Predator's running off. Danny Glover's chasing him. Predator goes down an elevator. Danny Glover tries to follow. And as he's going down, because somebody's obviously using it, there's like a hole in the very center of the very, very bottom of the hotel.
The elevator shaft.
Sorry, apartment, not hotel.
Yeah, it's an apartment.
Which looks like it's on the side
It's a
of
high
the hill.
rise. I don't know. Now you're making up.
It could be connected on the other side.
Okay,
but
okay.
I need
Let's
to
stick
rewatch
to
that
the
one.
facts here, guys.
Anyway. He falls through the hole. There's
a giant cavern apparently.
Yeah, it looks like an abandoned subway.
Like this
It's an abandoned subway that never got finished.
An abandoned subway.
And the ship is inside.
The way this thing was shot, you're like, this building doesn't have a foundation. How is it standing up against those strong winds? Like, how does this building not collapse on itself?
It could be behind a big hill.
Okay.
It's possible.
We're making a lot of excuses here. The Predator apparently, in the middle of LA, flew a ship underground into a high-rise ghetto apartment and parked it there and started killing cops. That's what we're supposed to accept, just as a thing.
Well, this is where Alien vs. Predator helps out, because in the beginning of that film, when the Predators land, the ship does the cloaking thing, and it's quiet.
I mean, you can cloak anything you want. What did he go through a sewer drain? How the hell did he get down there?
Look, their technology
Oh,
can
their
probably
technology!
go over the city, and it can scan from a big hole or an area that would be safe to place the ship without being noticed.
Oh my god.
Yes, I know, suspension of disbelief, but I don't
You are not
care.
Johnny Cochran.
I still
here.
enjoy this movie.
If the spaceship fits, you must have quit.
It's difficult to defend it, but is it not an awesome scene? It is an awesome
All
scene
right.
because you get to see the alien head. You
Dude.
get to see the trophy of the alien.
Okay, so basically the ship is underground. Danny Glover
Still chasing the Predator.
still chasing the Predator, and goes underneath the into the subterranean level of this apartment building and gets into the spaceship. And at this point, before he has his final fight with the Predator, he walks in and sees all these skulls of, I guess, humans and then other species. And there is a little Easter egg in there. There's a Predator.
There's nothing little about that skull.
And then you're right. That was what kind of spawned the whole aliens versus Predator thing. And so, as a pro, you could say that that's one thing about it. But as a con, when this movie was released, they didn't make another Predator movie for 14 years because it was awful. And people thought it was awful. The only way that it's gotten a following is from folks such as yourself who see this charm in this movie that folks such as myself don't.
It does have a cult status.
It does.
A very vocal cult status.
There is just like the Alien fans who love
Alien Resurrection.
Yeah, who love that stuff, and those of us like me who want to see more about the engineers are on two different sides of the fence. And
Predator 2 is way better than Alien Resurrection.
oh my god,
Way better.
I don't know, dude. I really have a hard time putting Predator 2 up against most things and saying it's better.
Predator 2. In the end, right here.
So let's finish about the ending.
It is still your prosecution. It is still your floor. I will step back for your final arguments.
Okay. So, look, if I was putting this movie on trial, and I am, the way I would look at it is this movie was made just for money. It wasn't like a Predator, you know. It was just made to grab a quick buck. It was a movie that struggled to make you care about the characters. The deaths were boring. All the ace characters, with the exception of Bill Pullman, were completely unlikable and unrealistic. And to go further on unrealistic, this movie had so many plot holes in it that it's hard to take it seriously as a movie on the caliber of the first Predator. If I was asking for a sentence, I'd ask for 14 years, up for parole in 10. 14 years being how long it took before they decided to make another Predator movie.
Well, sir, you make a mighty fine argument, but I'm going to have to come at you now. You see, honestly, I think that this film packs a wallop, just like the back of the VHS that I'm looking at, the same VHS that I've had since I was a kid. Looking right at the back of it, looking at all its glory in the poster. I love the characters, love the special effects. Are there plot holes? Yeah, there are some plot holes. About as big as the ship being underneath that tunnel, whatever that was. Yeah, that is a big plot hole. But that doesn't take away from how much enjoyment I still get out of the movie. Even though the many years have gone by and there are films that I go back and watch that really don't hold up as well for me. Predator 2, to me, has always held up pretty well. It's not as good as the first, but how could it be? I think it's a solid movie, and I actually don't think at all that it was a cash grab, as you think. For one, they pumped $30 million into this movie. That was more than double the budget of the original. They really felt like they had something. On top of that, they were working on the Predator and Alien movie because they put in the skull in there purposely to connect the two franchises. But the problem was Alien was lagging. Alien 3, they went through, 3 different directors. It was a complete mess. And by the time the film came out, which is about 1992, it's 2 years past Predator 2, they had to get Predator 2 out there. And if they couldn't get Schwarzenegger, they had to go to the next best thing. Maybe not everybody's choice is Danny Glover, but I think it's a fine choice. Also, the comics that came out of this were really good, but that's not the same thing. But the number one little piece of evidence that I hold here in my hand is the epic Predator dance scene.
Okay.
There is an outtake of all the Predators that show up at the end of the film. When Predator walks up like a G with a boombox and starts playing music, next thing you know, all the Predators come out in total coordination.
Yeah, and the music that they're playing is very circa 1991 dance, the EDM,
boom,
the
boom,
version
boom,
of EDM
boom,
back then.
Boom,
yeah,
boom,
hard. It was
boom.
4 to the floor beat house music, and I gotta be honest with you, when I had never seen this scene before. About 10 minutes before we started recording this, and Carlos put it on, and it immediately warmed my heart, a little bit. I gotta admit, I love this scene.
And we will be leaving that at the end. I'm going to clip that to the end of this video.
Yeah, for real. If they could have just made that as a movie somehow, the Predators show up and they just got this ridiculous dance team.
Without this film, you don't have the epic Predator dance scene. I rest my case.
You know what? If they'd have just showed up and just been you gonna get effed in the 8 on Saturday, and just dance their asses off, this would have been a whole different conversation we'd be having.
I wish that I had a mic to drop. But that's up to you guys, whether or not I get to drop the mic or my brother does. We are going to put in our overall ratings, but you guys decide who wins the argument. Myself, I give this movie a solid... I'm trying not to put on too much nostalgia goggles, because it does hold up to me. I really like it. My heart wants to give it an 8. but I gotta be a little bit critical on it. Some of the plot holes weigh it down, so I'm gonna give it 7 out of 10 Danny Glovers.
Jesus Christ, you gave it 7 out of 10 Danny
7
Glovers?
out of 10 Danny Glovers.
Wow. Okay. I'm gonna be way more critical on this movie. Now, I'm gonna say that originally when I started off, this was gonna be like way down there. You know what I mean? But mostly because of the Predator dance scene, I'm gonna give it 4. And you know how much of a stickler I am. I was gonna give it like a 3, maybe a 2. And the only reason I was gonna go that high was because it's in the canon. You can't argue with that. You know what I mean? Like, it is in the canon. You have to give it a little bit of respect because even though it's a bad, oh god, it's got so many problems. It's worth taking a look at if you like the history of Predator. And god damn it, those dancing predators. Okay, 4. I'll give you 4, bro.
Wait till you see him. Wait till you see him. Next week will be my turn to challenge.
Okay,
And
what are you coming up with? What's your pick with me?
I'm sure there's going to be people out there who highly disagree with me, and I am ready for the tomatoes to be thrown at me because, after all, I am a Roman Reigns fan, so I already deal with that from my friends when I say go Roman. My pick is going to be Fargo.
Are you kidding me?
I do not like Fargo.
Okay, so
I have not seen the show, though. I will not criticize that because I haven't seen it. I've seen like 5 minutes of it. But I did not like the movie.
See, oh my god, dude, this is the one where I'm like, I feel good about it because I'm defending the Coen brothers.
I like the Coen brothers.
Hey, everybody, but here's the thing, man. Fargo is just a hilarious movie. I don't know if it was meant that way, but goddamn, I don't know how you don't like it, dude. It's got everything. It's got mafia from the Midwest. It's got people trying to kill their wives, like. It's got Steve Buscemi.
Okay,
Steve Buscemi.
Steve Buscemi helps, but he doesn't make the movie.
It's got what's
Steve
his name?
Buscemi's also in a lot of Adam Sandler movies. But
Yeah,
there's a lot to be said for that.
It's
Not that I'm saying this is an Adam Sandler production quality movie, but I just do not like Fargo.
How do you not like Fargo, dude?
It didn't click with me.
I mean,
We're gonna get into it next week. We will be getting into it next week. But until then, guys, feel free to check us out at Wrestling Movie Guide G. Wrestling Movie G on Twitter. Wrestling Movie G.
Yeah, y'all. We're gonna see you on the next one.
And make sure you like, share, and subscribe. And wait for that Predator video.
It's great.
Good night, y'all.